Howdy, 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 my name is Anashi Sasuke. Welcome back to Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. So I'm pretty sure in the last episode of us doing these entries, I did the clone coffin last, which was really weird. I don't believe I've done photo album, and I'm aiming for the world's gayest man alive. I added too many words to that. The gayest man alive! Does it mean homosexual? Does it mean happy? We'll find out soon. So, photo album. Let's find out if I did that already. Okay, we've not done this. I do not recall seeing this thing. That might be flowers in the shape of a heart. It might be sinister because it says Euclid. So, SCP-223 is kept in a locked containment vault in Site-19. If the two photos missing from it are recovered, they should be stored in separate, specially prepared vaults at Site-17. Okay. Any personnel who sees any anomalies appear anywhere in 223 must be reassigned to another project immediately. Huh? Such personnel must be kept under observation for mental instability, including tri-weekly examination by a site psychiatrist. Okay. And are advised to minimize their exposure to photographs of any kind. So what you're saying is, don't let the lady from Alpha 9 see this photo album, because that would be catastrophic. Okay, so it's a photo album capable of holding 30 photos bound in a small hardcover book. The photos are attached to the pages with an unknown adhesive. It matches the appearance of a product made by blank, but lacks any brand label. From Danny with Love has been written on the back in blue ink. 223 contains 28 photos, which chronicle an engaged couple's vacation to someplace beach. The final 2 pages have been ripped out. Nudist beach! The couple in the photos have been positively identified as E blank blank, so possibly Eric, or Evan. And blank blank, which might be Linda or Lori or something, who went on the vacation depicted in June of 19-something. Evan and Lori died June-something in a murder-suicide by Evan. Evan's suicide note claimed he found his fiancée in bed with another man and killed her! However, no evidence of such an affair was ever found. There's one other person who frequently appears in the photos of 223, a Caucasian male with attractive and somewhat androgynous features, designation 223-1. Based on his behavior in the photos, he seems to be a friend of the couple. All attempts to determine the identity of him have proven fruitless. He does not appear in photos and recorded footage of 223, although careful comparative analysis of the photos and data expunged. Sorry, I had a message on my phone. Occasionally, persons reading 223 will see the likeness of their romantic interest in one or more of 223's photos, replacing an incidental bystander. Independent observers can verify that the photos do in fact change, however these anomalies are always discovered by the individual they most concern. 223 seems to target readers who are in a stable, happy romantic relationship with these anomalies. 223 apparently can only target one person at a time in this way. If the discoverer of the anomaly, hereafter the target, continues to read 223, their perception of the album's contents will change radically. While any other reader continues to see the original photos, a target will see an album of photos of their romantic partner interacting with an androgynous but attractive member of the target sex. The target invariably reacts with jealousy and suspicion, and if allowed will search for the final 2 pages, believing the contents will prove whether or not the target's partner is cheating. The effects of 223 on a given target wear off completely within 1 week, unless the target is exposed to new photos or 223. At this point, the current target's love interests like this will vanish from the album, and the target can safely view ordinary photographs. A former target attempting to view 223's photographs will see redacted. If not allowed contact with 223 following the initial discovery, the target's perceptions of other photographs will also be altered. The nature of these alterations varies depending on the content of the photos, but the majority involve the inclusion of a humanoid similar to 223-1. Pictures including both exposure to and both the target and the target's romantic partner seem to be the most psychologically damaging to view. Exposure to a sufficiently large number of photographs seems to cause a brainwashing effect in the target, creating a strong delusion of great danger that can only be resolved by returning the missing photos to 223. This appears to be caused by a long succession of subliminal signals and traumatizing images rather than by any actual psychic influence. Sorry about all that noise, my ear felt weird. Psych Report 223-6, Dr. Morris, blank blank 19-something interview log. Please be seated. How long has it been since your first exposure? About a week? Yeah, that's right, 7 days. It's all kind of blurred. How do you feel? Sort of paranoid, edgy, like he's watching me from somewhere, somehow. Any update on the missing photos? What do you mean by he? The man we called 223-1. From the photos, he's... Yes? Have you been exposed to any photos since your last visit? No. Good. What do you see here? A photo is of a grizzly bear drinking from a pool. It seems to be a photo of two bears mating. Very well. And this? Photo is of a bed, no figures present. A naked man seated on a bed. Look, it's been a week, right? You can let me go? I've got to find those photos. You seem extremely interested in 223's missing photographs. Why? I've got to prove Lily's innocence. Dr. Morris, your wife is in no danger. We've discovered nearly 23 photographs hidden in and around your quarters, Dr. Morris. Whatever you saw in those photos is not real. Lunging at the examiner, restrained by guards. Liar! You're working for them, aren't you? Take him away for now. Wait! When can I see Lily again? Log ends. Note, Morris was given a Class A amnesiac and has now returned to his full duties. Mrs. Morris has been informed that her husband is dead. Okay. Further analysis of Evan's autopsy report indicates that several of the wounds found on his body could not have been self-inflicted, therefore suicide has been ruled out as the cause of death. There's no evidence of anyone other than Evan entering or leaving the scene of the crime for at least 24 hours before and after his death, although redacted one of the walls. Okay. Well, that sure is a thing that happened. Let's check out the grandfather clock. That's a pretty nice looking clock, but it's Euclid. So, item SCP-224 is to be stored in a soundproof enclosure with acoustic destructive interference nodes. That's a good sign. Nodes must be replaced on a weekly basis by remote means due to the erratic nature of 224's effect. Non-disposable dudes are not to enter the enclosure. Additionally, 224's enclosure must be kept free from moisture to avoid rapid oxidation. In the event that the clock begins to chime, all personnel must run, and the location should be secured following procedure Site-77. 224 is a wooden grandfather clock accented with a black lacquer and gold leaf. That is a really nice clock. Markings, remotely observed, date its origin at the end of the 19th century. Though internal examination of its components has been done, the density and construction of the gears make method of function impossible to interpret. I imagine it works like a clock would work. The hands of the clock do not move with any known consistency. Well, color me wrong. Though the tendency seems to be generally clockwise. Additionally, chimes occur at non-regular intervals, ranging from approximately 1 minute to several months. To further complicate matters, the numbers on the clock also have a tendency to move and shift, though they generally retain ascending order. Each chime has an anomalous acoustic signature that causes a drastic localized temperature acceleration. People and objects in range of the sound begin to age. Oh, it's one of these. The amount of time is not consistent with chimes, ranging from essentially inconsequential amounts to several years, though the amount aged during any single event is consistent for all objects within the field of effect. 224 was originally found in the blank antique shop and purchased by Mr. Somebody as a gift for his wife. When brought home and wound, the anomalous properties were noticed, though not acted upon, both apparently considering the object broken. Their bodies were discovered in their collapsed house 2 days later, aged significantly. Foundation personnel monitoring blank took interest and 224 was subsequently recovered. Ages blank and blank were unfortunately lost following exposure during transportation. Any instances of 224 retaining any numeric pattern for an extended period should be noted to Dr. Locke. I guess Dr. Simmons died. Failure to do so will result in suspension and possible demotion. Addendum 224. Cataloged incidents. Due to repeated errors on the part of the maintenance crews working on containment for 224, Dr. Simmons insisted that the following report be spread among the on-site work crews to fully stress the importance of 224's containment. After its circulation, it was added to the primary case file for historical purposes. Today, I had the pleasure of informing Agent Blank that he is to be given retirement pay and is free to leave active duty as of this evening. It was not initially approved by Director Blank until I explained the circumstances. Agent Blank, who's the father of Alice Blank and the husband of Mary Lee Blank, was walking past 224 Containment Facility on Friday, March 17th, 1980-something. He was reporting to his supervisor's office to deliver the final report on SCP Blank, which he was instrumental in helping acquire. Because 224's effect is so unpredictable, he had no way of knowing that the object had activated until the acoustic dampening equipment failed. leading to the collapse of the wall. At this time, Agent Blank was exposed to 7 iterations of 224's effect. The first one saw him age into his mid-30s. Those of you who have seen the video are aware that this wasn't a drastic change. However, by the second exposure he was now well into his 40s. There was significant graying of hair. By the third iteration he was balding, and we estimate his age reached into the early 60s. By the fourth, his skin had noticeably wrinkled with liver spots appearing in several places. By the sixth iteration, the agent collapsed due to a broken hip, fracturing several ribs and his left arm. It was at this point he lost control of his bowels and bladder. When the seventh iteration ended, containment had to be manually re-established. At this time, Agent Blank is estimated to be over 100 years old. As a note, Agent Blank volunteered for termination and examination of 224's effects, should the retirement pay he was now technically entitled to be rewarded to his family. I heartily thank Director and Agent for giving us this opportunity to study 224's effect. I hope you'll remember in the future that while some SCPs kill immediately, others do not. Others leave lingering effects that have ramifications for the people and the families of the people who are subjected to them. Dr. Rasmussen was down the hall from Agent Blank. He is now a 35-year-old man in an elderly body. Agent Researcher Jessup, who was pregnant when she was exposed in the same incident, died when her child was forced through her abdomen. Her son is a 45-year-old man with the mind of an infant. Dr. Quinn's undiagnosed case of bladder cancer consumed his entire abdomen in a matter of moments. Please keep these incidents in mind before failing to replace the perfectly fine acoustic nodes in the containment enclosure. Dr. Simmons, head of containment. I wonder why Dr. Simmons is no longer the head of containment. Okay, maybe he died when that happened again. So, after the grandfather clock, which was a really nice looking clock, but a really terrible thing to have had exist, now it's time to check out Unstoppable and Immovable. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. SCP-225-1 is contained at Site 65 for study and experimentation. No guards are necessary for the object itself, as theft is impossible and the object is harmless for the moment. Ongoing tests are to be made to find a way to eliminate it, or to at least find a way to move it from its position in a controllable fashion. 225-2 is as yet uncontainable and should be monitored as best as possible as it travels, with constant updates as to its current position, speed, and trajectory, along with projections as to its estimated position for the next 50 years. As of this writing, 225 poses no immediate threat. However, in the event that a collision course with 225-1 is detected, it is to be immediately upgraded to Keter, and every effort must be made to find a way to alter them from their courses. All Foundation resources are to be made available for this objective should a collision ever become probable. Planetary evacuation plans are to be drawn up as a precaution, as are revised containment procedures for Keter-level items whose containment being compromised by data expunged would also result in the item's imminent destruction. Would not also result in it. Description. They are both shiny gray metallic spheres of unknown origin and composition, each with a diameter of 0.681 meters. One appears stable and motionless, but is in fact moving in a geosynchronous path above Earth at the exact speed of Earth's rotation, maintaining its relative position at all times. Gravity, magnetism, and all other forces tested have had no effect on it. It maintains position approximately 7.3 meters above the surface. No amount of force brought to bear on it in any direction has any effect on it upon its position. All tools and weaponry tested have no effect upon it physically. 2 follows a path around the Sun that is nearly synchronous with Earth's. It does not orbit Earth, Earth rotates under it, giving it the illusory appearance of traveling around the Earth at velocities usually ranging from 1,600 to 2,000 kilometers per hour, depending on its current relative altitude. It's not an orb with attitude. It does not technically orbit the Sun either. It appears to be moving under its own power via unknown means. Its course has not been entirely predictable. Differences between 2's path and Earth's orbit move the planet closer to or further away from 2, with a surprisingly small level of variance to date. Since it was first observed in blank, it has never reached an altitude of less than 10 kilometers, generally staying between blank and blank above the surface. Though it has moved as far away as data expunged, resulting in a temporary loss of contact in blank, re-established in blank after the blank lunar impact incident. Similarly to 1, no force or weaponry brought to bear upon it has had any effect, though testing on it is significantly more difficult, time-consuming, and resource-intensive due to the variation in its relative position. Addendum. To summarize, no effort to move or damage 1 has any effect, and no effort to stop or damage 2 has any effect. 2 destructively travels through any object in its path without pause and or pushes it out of its way, regardless of that object's composition. 1 is unaffected by any amount of force brought to bear on it in any direction. While individually each object is not as yet of any major concern, there are cataclysmic implications should the 2 objects ever collide. Projections based upon the estimated amount of material contained between the 2 objects, 0.33 cubic meters, approximately 2,600 kilograms, show that should the objects annihilate each other, they will release at minimum the power of a blank gigaton nuclear explosion, potentially much higher depending on what they are constructed of. Since all tests thus far have shown that neither 1 nor 2 can be damaged or moved by any means known, the possibility also exists that neither object would be annihilated, halted, or altered from their courses, even by contact with the other. If this is true, then a collision between 1 and 2 has the potential to data expunged. In this circumstance, planetary evacuation may not be sufficient and data expunged should time permit before data expunged. So, what was this one called again? Unstoppable and immovable. When an unstoppable force and an immovable object. So, if the thing that they can't stop slams into the thing that they can't move, data expunged. And whatever data expunged may be, leaving the planet will not be good enough for humanity to survive it. And I also don't know how much a gigaton is. Let's see how much a gigaton is. A unit of explosive force equal to 1 billion tons of TNT. I did not know that that's what TNT stood for. I can't pronounce it. But now I know that TNT stands for something. Cool! Less cool is what blank gigatons of explosive force would do to the planet. Moving on. Next is a puzzle of terror. If this one is safe, I call hacks. I call hacks! Okay, so 226 is to be kept in a locked cabinet within the site blank secure item storage unit. Any person wishing to use 226 must have approval from any personnel with at least level 3 security clearance. 226 is a cardboard box, measuring roughly 30 centimeters by 20 centimeters by 4 centimeters. So, a puzzle. It has a lid that fits securely over the bottom half, as with any common puzzle box. The surface of the box is a deep black with the word FEAR scrawled in white ink on the upper right corner of its lid. Within the box are 1,000 cardboard puzzle pieces, each measuring roughly 2 centimeters in diameter, also considered 226. When completed, the puzzle always forms in a rectangular shape. However, the design and order in which the pieces fit together change with use. 226 aligns itself with whoever initially opens the box. When opened, the pieces change design, and the completed image will show what has been discovered to be the greatest fear of the person who it is aligned to. The image on the pieces do not change after the box has been opened. Recorded images on 226 are as follows: a bloated corpse sinking underwater, a set of gallows with several nooses attached, a person screaming with hundreds of small spiders crawling out of his mouth, a darkened window with a mutilated hand scraping across it, SCP-682, whatever that may be, a human figure completely covered in various insects such as bees or centipedes, the cross-section of a coffin buried in dirt with a person inside slamming her fist against the inside of the lid. Yeah. When completed and taken back apart, the lid of 226 box will fly through the air and secure itself back on the lower half. The puzzle pieces will disappear, presumably returning back into the box. 226 will then become unaligned and align itself with the next person to open the box. Additional notes. 226 was first discovered by the now defunct Mobile Task Force Blank 12 on blankety blank 19-something. At the time, the Mobile Task Force was investigating reports of a possible SCP in a series of tunnels underneath the church in the city of Blank. Due to an equipment malfunction, MTF-12 had lost communication with the surface and was stranded within the tunnels until repairs were made. The task force discovered 226 on a wooden table within a stone room surrounded by several chairs. Believing it to be a simple puzzle, MTF-12 decided to open it to pass the time. When completed, it depicted the exact scene of MTF-12 sitting at the table working on a puzzle. However, Agent Blank appeared to be viciously stabbing other members of the task force with a standard-issue titanium knife supplied to every agent. The puzzle was taken apart, transporting back to its box. Repairs were soon made, and MTF-12 returned to the surface. Regrettably, an accident en route to the surface caused the death of Agent Blank. Okay, so somebody's fear was him stabbing everybody to death, and then he died because of an accident. Okay, then. Complete Antikythera mechanism. Wonder if that means something. Well, it's safe. Somehow. Let's see what Antikythera means. Antikythera. It's an ancient Greek analog computer and orrery used to predict astronomical positions and eclipses for calendar and astrological purposes. Okay. 227 is to be kept in the climate-controlled room at a temperature of between 21 to 24 degrees Celsius and humidity no higher than 10%. I don't understand humidity, so I'm not sure what that does. Anyone touching the object is required to wear surgical gloves. The supply of these is to be kept with it at all times. Food, drinks, cigarettes, or any other sources of contamination are not allowed inside the containment area. Loose clothing, hair, or other adornment is not recommended. Only personnel with level 3 clearance or higher are allowed to access 227, although lower-ranking staff are allowed to use the object while under supervision. If 227 needs to be transported to another location, it should be sealed in an insulated, airtight container filled with an inert gas. 227 is a bronze clockwork device, more clocks, great, measuring 10 by 16 by 26 centimeters and weighing 5 kilograms. It is somewhat similar in appearance to reconstructions of the Antikythera mechanism, an incomplete and heavily corroded Greek artifact thought to date from approximately 100 BCE. Unlike that artifact, 227 was found intact and apparently fully functional. This is partly because 227 was found on land at blank blank, instead of at the bottom of the Mediterranean, but the lack of significant damage is remarkable. Preliminary testing of 227 shows that it may have some ability to repair itself over time. Further testing is pending approval from 05 level staff. 227 has one major dial with 3 hands on the front face. This dial has several concentric rings which rotate independently. The rear face has 2 major dials with 2 hands each. These dials are surrounded by a spiral groove through which some of the internal gearing is visible. A number of smaller dials are arranged around the rest of the object. The total number of these minor dials visible at once varies when the object is in use, as does the number of hands on each dial. There are 3 small cranks on the right side of 227. Turning any of these sets the moving parts of 227 into action. This reminds me of the weird planetarium-looking room from the second season of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Except probably much more horrifying. The top crank causes the most rapid change. Some of the smaller hands have been observed moving at speeds of over blank RPM. Extended use of the top crank causes 227 to heat up significantly. Personnel are advised to use caution when turning the top crank to avoid damaging it or injuring themselves. The middle and bottom crank are used for medium and fine adjustments respectively. The object is covered in a large number of inscriptions. The majority of these are in Attic Greek. However, some are various writing systems that have yet to be deciphered. These include Linear A, Cretan hieroglyphs, and 1 or more unknown languages. The translatable text is essentially a manual of operation for 227, with the exception of 1 passage which states data expunged. The full significance of this passage is under investigation. Early indications are that 227 is an incredibly accurate astronomical computer. Symbols corresponding to the sun, moon, and planets are prominently placed on the front major dial, along with many other symbols of unknown meaning. The rear major dials have markings consistent with several ancient calendar systems. These include the Calippic, Metonic, Saros, and Sothic cycles. There are also at least 2 more previously unknown calendar systems present. Addendum 1. Further study has revealed that 227 is able to compute the locations of bodies that were only recently discovered by modern astronomers. For example, 1 set of hands and the markings corresponds to the Kuiper belt object 50,000 Quar. It's difficult to detect even with the Hubble Space Telescope. How the designer of 227 was able to predict its orbit is unknown. Addendum 2. 227 has demonstrated an ability to predict even aperiodic astronomical events. One researcher was turning the top crank and happened to notice a minor dial appear very briefly. Fine-tuning revealed that the minor dial first appears on a date corresponding to February 23, 1987. This is the date that the supernova SN 1987A was first observed on Earth. Addendum 3. Advancing 227 past the date corresponding to blank blank 2000 something is not possible. A force of up to 100 newtons applied to the bottom crank is unable to produce any movement past this date. Testing with additional force has not been authorized due to the risk of damaging 227. When the object is set to this date, a large number of dials and symbols appear which are not seen at any other setting. The meaning of this final setting is unknown. Some researchers believe that this may represent an XK class end of the world scenario, such as a wandering brown dwarf, the so-called Nemesis hypothesis, a gamma ray burst, or data expunged. Addendum 4. The date of the final setting on 227 was observed to change once to a time blank years later than the previous date. The symbols that appeared at this new final setting were somewhat different from the previous one, but their meaning remains unknown. Research into what may have caused this change is underway. Probably the universe getting rewritten that one time. Next up is the Psychiatric Diagnostic Tool. We're almost there! We're almost at the gayest man alive! I'm half expecting him to not actually be alive. This one is also safe. What was it called again? Psychiatric Diagnostic Tool? Safe? Bullshit. Okay, so 228 will be used to conduct experimental psychiatric testing at Site 23. 228 is to be kept under glass in Observation Room 113 ADC at Site 23. Access to this observation room will require either Level 4 authorization or a signed notification from Medical Director Light. Observation Room 113 ADC is to be monitored by no fewer than 4 high-definition video cameras and a reinforced one-way observation mirror running the full length of the east wall. When a subject observes 228, their reaction is to be documented by no fewer than 5 researchers stationed behind the observation mirror, as well as the subject's accompanying psychiatrist. Description: 228 is a Polaroid photograph of variable appearance. It is apparent at this time that 228 derives its subject matter from the subconscious mind of the viewer. The images produced are always visually clear, but vary in interpretive coherency. For example, one viewer may cause 228 to manifest a clear portrait of that viewer's father, while another causes an image of a heart-shaped object submerged in a green fluid to redacted. The coherence of the image produced by 228 appears to vary from subject to subject, and is theorized to have some connection to the viewer's emotional state. 228's various image manifestations can be photographed normally, although the photographs will not display the ability to manifest new images. It will manifest an image when viewed remotely by video feed. After 228 has manifested an image, it will remain inert, displaying the same image until that viewer looks away. At that point, it will adapt its manifestation to reflect that of the current viewer. The question of what 228 manifests when unobserved is moot. 228 will be used to assist members of the psychiatric staff at Site 23. During psychoanalysis, the patient, hereafter referred to as the subject, will be asked leading questions and instructed to look at 228. Once the manifestation has been recorded, the subject will be instructed to look away. At no point should the interviewer view 228 before the subject, as this will corrupt the record and potentially skew psychoanalysis of the subject. Addendum: as a blankety blank blank, no personnel who have previously been exposed to a visual mimetic agent is authorized for exposure to 228 due to the possibility of subsequent data expunged. I guess that would be due to the possibility of it bringing it back. And then everyone's all, oh god, we can see the mimetic agent! Okay, now it's time for wireweed, which is Euclid. A telephone pole infested with wireweed. A large wireweed infestation in an Iraq neighborhood. Picture taken shortly before sterilization. Okay, then it's Euclid. No electrical devices or of any kind are allowed inside or within 30 meters of the containment area. Any and all personnel entering the containment area are to be clad in lead-lined clothing and helmets. Anything found to be infested by 229 is to be immediately incinerated, and the resulting ash and debris contained and disposed under Protocol XJR-99. Containment area is to be composed of a hollow cube of 18 cm thick granite, 8 meters on a side with a single door and airlock. These are to operate with no electrical components, and those components are to be made of wood or stone whenever possible. Any organism infested with 229 is to be immediately incinerated. Any items or staff exiting the containment area must be scanned and cleared by site security. Okay. 229 appears to be a mass of wires and cables. Superficially, they appear to be raw copper wire, insulated Ethernet cable, phone cable, power lines, and many other forms of electrical cable. The current mass weighs 94 kilograms at last measurement. It is tentatively identified as a form of silicone-based life. It is a highly invasive parasite attacking anything carrying even a low electrical current. 229 will grow several centimeters every hour and form connectors to attach to electrical power sources, wall socket plugs, USB connectors, etc. 229 will also splice itself into power lines and existing wires if no connection is available. 229 appears to feed off electricity. 229 appears to go dormant when not in the presence of an electrical source. Any electrical current entering within 30 meters, no matter how small, will immediately cause it to grow in the direction of the electricity. Questions regarding the possible intelligence and sensory organs of 229 are still under investigation. 229 appears to grow best on metal or plastic, but is very capable of infesting living tissue. In vertebrate animals, it will quickly penetrate the epidermis and other tissues, attaching to and enveloping the spine. It will then grow along nerve pathways and up to the brain, attaching and infesting it within a few days. This process appears to be extremely painful and can cause very erratic behavior. When the infested subject nears death, usually from massive internal bleeding and brain damage, it will exit the body by puncturing through the skin and attaching to any nearby structures, thus beginning the cycle again. It is theorized that 229 has always been present in our ecosystem, but that the technological level and hereby the availability of electricity was insufficient to allow its spread. With the current prevalence of wires and other electrical devices, detection can be extremely difficult. Incineration is currently the best means for a 229 removal. At this time, cross-examination between 229 and 217 is allowed only with O5 approval. What were you again? Keter class something. Oh, that. Right. Why would they do that? Why would they have those two things interact with each other? That's a terrible idea. Now it's time, finally, for the gayest man alive. Right? Did I click on the right thing? I did. Okay, Euclid. Compound something. 230 is kept in a secure room inside blank. The room must have a controlled ventilation system so that air exiting the room can be properly filtered before it re-enters the regular ventilation system of the complex. 230 is to be given anything he requests that does not violate standard procedures for SCP containment. The door is set to automatically lock every time it closes and can only be opened from outside the room. Personnel entering 230's room must wear a full hazmat suit with its own oxygen supply. Personnel exposed to the air in 230's cell or who come in physical contact with 230 or any of 230's bodily fluids must be contained and held for observation for no less than 1 month. Personnel still exhibiting symptoms from 230 after 1 month are to be terminated. If personnel are cleared by on-site staff after a month, they are to then be transferred and forbidden contact with 230. Due to recent events, subjects that have been exposed and cleared by staff are required to undergo regular psychological exams. If upon exam the personnel exhibits any of the traits shown in document 230-4436-B, the personnel is to be terminated. I hope that document's on here so that we can understand why. Note: subject has made several escape attempts utilizing personnel exposed to 230. This represents a low threat due to the fact that exposed personnel are usually impaired. However, personnel will become violent in order to stay in 230's presence. Okay then. 230 is a male Caucasian with a lean build and gaunt appearance. 230 is 185 centimeters, 6'1", and he's 150 pounds and appears to be in his early 30s, wears bright clothing and prefers the colors pink and yellow. He is a very cheerful individual who appears to be incapable of negative emotions. So I guess he's the happy... I guess he's both. He secretes a chemical similar in composition to heroin from his pores. The chemical has been named Compound Blank. Once secreted from his pores, it evaporates immediately and contaminates the air around him. Compound Blank seems to be effective in as little as 30 parts per million in gaseous form. When inhaled, Compound Blank causes extreme euphoria in subjects. Analysis on Class D personnel under the effects of 230 indicated that they had dopamine levels greater than 5 times of what is expected during sexual climax. Subjects express impairment similar to the effects of heroin. Subjects become willing to comply with any request 230 makes, provided it does not involve leaving 230's presence. Why do I feel like I've read this before? Have I read this before? But yeah, it sounds like, it sounds like he's the happy kind of gay, but his effects can cause the other kind of gay. I don't know. It probably means the happy kind of gay, because he wears pink and yellow and he's always happy because his sweat is heroin. Anyway, It is present in all of his bodily fluids. Exposure is possible even by contact with his skin. Exposure to the compound will result in immediate addiction. Withdrawal symptoms are extreme and have a 30% mortality rate. Symptoms include loss of appetite, tremors, panic, vomiting, diarrhea, irritability, dementia, insanity, blindness, and hemorrhaging. Those symptoms vary from subject to subject. Symptoms typically last for around 2 weeks before subsiding. The symptoms appear to be determined by how much of compound blank the subject is exposed to. Subjects that ingest any of the bodily fluids, saliva, blood, etc. have a mortality rate from withdrawal of 100%. 230 was found in an apartment in blank with 20 people acting as his servants. 230 seemed to be actively attempting to limit the number of people he exposed. Several bodies of exposed persons were found on the premises. When questioned about them, he replied things were getting crowded, so I asked a few of them to stop breathing. 230 appears to be under the effects of compound blank, but doesn't seem to be impaired by it in any way. Attempts to alter his mood have proven ineffective. Use of various drugs known to cause depression only resulted in him producing more of the compound and thus were ineffective. 230 is a very friendly individual and will candidly engage in conversation with any personnel. 230 is unaware of how or when he began secreting compound blank. When questioned about his past, he replied that he has been secreting it for as long as he can remember. He prefers to talk about things he considers good or gay. 230 has some psychological attachment to the word gay. When asked to describe himself, he used the word gay 6 times, gay 84 times, and the word gayest once when he referred to himself as the gayest man alive. It definitely feels like I've read this before. Note by Dr. Blank. 230's preoccupation with the word gay has nothing to do with sexual orientation. 230 doesn't appear to have a sexual orientation due to a lack of interest in sex entirely. This makes sense, seeing as 230's experiences the same amount of pleasure doing any given activity, making sex unnecessary. Addendum 231. Class 2 personnel researcher Blank was accidentally exposed to compound blank during research. They were detained and sent to treatment for the duration of withdrawal systems. After 1 month, they were released after being cleared by medical staff. 2 months later, they were found trying to break into 230's containment area. They reacted violently and injured several personnel before she was contained. She was terminated after examination, and precautions have been made to prevent further recurrence. See document 230-4436-B, which is expunged! So, it really feels like I've read this before. I don't know why I would have read it so early, but it definitely feels like I've read this before. I don't know why, though. In any case, this has been Nanashi Sasuke. This was episode something. Let's find out. It was episode 56 of Let's Read the SCP Foundation Wiki. If you liked it, a like and a subscribe would be groovy. If you didn't, you don't need to do either one of those things. So, thanks again, and I will see y'all in the next one. Later.